Hello there! I'm Squire Callahan Ridgeborn, almost a battle master, always a wizard, and tonight I'm joined by Kismet, a Warcrat, for a very interesting event out of Polaris. Kismet, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to bring you in tonight.
Glad to be here.
Now, Kismet, I heard about MAME when I talked to Kite earlier in 2025, and he told me that it was an event with the sales pitch was more battle games than a reasonable person could participate in. And if my silly brother wasn't getting married that weekend, I was going to try to come this year. So, what gave you the idea to have more battle games that a reasonable person could participate in?
So, I've been park champion for many years, and I think it's the most important job. So I kind of wanted to take that into a larger event. And I know myself have been through many events, and most of the time there's 2 to 3 games and lots of space between, lots of setting up, lots of standing around. And I wanted to make it so that as much as possible, I could remove all those things we're waiting for and then just do battle games from start time to end time with basically no break other than lunch. There were like 5 minute breaks between games or setup time, but as much as possible, I just wanted to do battle games all day long and get in as many as I could. So. And if
That
you didn't when you want to play all of them, you didn't have to, but there were crazy people that did.
my ideal way of, like, the way I measure an event's success is battle games per dollar. MAME might be the only event that can make me think like, yes, this was enough battle games. Maybe too many.
Yeah, I think we had at least 20 the first year over the
Which
2
is
days. So
an
maybe more
amazing
like
amount of battle
25.
games.
So yeah, I mean to be fair, they weren't like overly complex, because that's
Mm-hmm.
part of my goal was like I mostly ran um fairly simple games so that
Mm-hmm.
explanation didn't take long. There weren't all that many questions. It allows you to get in and start playing Amtgard, which most people want to do, right? They don't.
Yeah.
So I also have the advantage of the fact that we have a more of a complex battle game event called Autumn Battle Ridge,
Mm.
Autumn Battlegrounds, and that is more where you have the like here's a bunch of rules to do
Okay.
battle gaming in. So I could do the hey, if you come to this, you don't really have to know anything. And I just had a bunch of quick games. I actually had a whole list, and I ran out both MAMEs on the second day, and I was just making stuff up as I went along because I mean that's how I work. I probably could have just done the whole thing made up as I went along, but I figured I should start have some plan. But
Well, that's super fun. So you said you had a list. Do you still have the list?
I do.
Do you want to just read
Do
it
you
for
want to
us real
see?
quick?
Sure. So Friday night I did uh, non-class games. I actually said ditch rules, which no armor, because armor kind of wrecks militia games without spell casting to balance it. So
Mm-hmm.
mostly we just did Chaos Murder Ball, which is a game that I made up, which is basically you put a bunch of buckets on the ground, you have one or two or lots of murder balls, which are playground balls that kill people, single short, and then whoever scores
Yeah.
a point, whoever gets to 5 first wins. Respawns all around the field, so you just when you die you go there for like 10 seconds, and it's just anyone can score in any bucket unless that bucket had just been scored, and then it's chaos. So we mostly just did that because we didn't get a lot of people there, which is fine. I did
Mm-hmm.
some. I think I did Sharks and Minnows, but I have my list is like Sharks and Minnows, Chaos Martyr Ball, Guard, which is kind of like an ultimate frisbee with swords again, things like
Okay.
that. So, and then Sunday games were Clock Area Control, which is another one that I invented. Basically, you have cones set up in a 12 o'clock pattern, and the teams start at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and then capture in clockwise order. So if one team's faster than another, you're going to end up running into each other, which of course is the whole
Mm.
point. I played Almost Quidditch, which is 3 hoops, 2 small, 1 large, and the only way you could score was with archers outside of a certain range. The goal, my attempt, was to allow people to escort their archers, and protect them so that they could score. That's not actually what happened. It's mostly just people didn't work together as well as as much as I'd wanted, but that's fine. I did. We have a set of 5 flags that are on pulleys that can register team. I did a bunch of stuff with that. The way my field was set up, I actually divided it in half, had all the games and supplies and shelter tents down the middle. And then I had a castle on one side with a fence down the middle and a empty set on the other. And then 2 goals at the end of the empty field so that I could use them for various things like giant games of murder ball and that sort of thing. And on the castle side, the fence was basically right down the middle with a door on the left and a door on the right and a back door.
Okay.
Personally, I don't like attack defense games because somebody always learns something. So the defenders learn things and the attackers learn things, so that when you switch sides, it's not the same experience, right? Because attackers, oh, I know this part was easy to attack, so we'll defend it more, which means the second group of attackers don't get the same, chances, right? Because you've learned things about the attack or defense, vice versa. I mean, it goes both ways, but so I like simultaneous attack and defense. So one field was the castles, they're just made up with snow fence and poles. And then ran attack defense games there so that's simultaneous. You could choose whether you wanted to attack or defend. And then I basically switched back and forth between the 2 fields so that I could do setup while one game was running on one
Yeah.
field and then switch back and forth. So that worked really well, although surprising, the static castle side was harder to use. Like, because I ran out of games there faster, because there's really only so many things you can do with 2 castles set up, attack, defense, right? I mean, I did.
Right.
So a set of sleds, which were at one point made by Michael Hammer of God for a Keep on the Borderlands long, long ago that I had, that I basically just took coolers that people brought for the food, filled them with water, and then strapped them down. Heavy objects. So I always appreciate heavy objects that are actually heavy. So we use those. It's like that. This year specifically, account this one. One of my favorite games that I do at a park level is called Class Game the Class Game. It's essentially Kill Your Killer, where Kill Your Killer is you kill somebody, you get killed by somebody, and you respawn when they get killed. It's essentially that at a class level. So all classes are on the same team as every other person in that class. So all assassins are on one team, all druids are on one team, and then it's Kill Your Killer. So as long as someone in your class is alive, you stay dead. As soon as everybody in your class dies, your entire class comes back to life. So I like the game, it's fun, but then we had so many people playing peasant that it was one of the most memorable times I've ever had in Amtgard. We had so many people playing peasant that I'm like, okay, we're going to completely change the game. It's going to be peasants versus the classes. So we had basically, I don't know, 25 people playing class, and then probably 60 people playing peasant. And it was a grand time because the peasants were taunting the class people, and the class people were taunting the peasants like, "We're sorry you're poor and can't afford equipment," and obviously the peasants got slaughtered, but I think it was probably one of the most memorable games I've ever been in, and it's so simple. So it was just like, so things like that. I had a giant pink kin ball that I used that was for things like goblin ball or murder ball with a giant 5-foot ball. Another game I played with my friend Hodge told me about that he played somewhere else is basically a blob game. So you have 4 people that have a hula hoop around them, and then you spread playground balls all over the place, or ball pit balls all over the place. And then they essentially are siege blobs, so they wander in a straight line. And then as soon as they go over a piece of food, they drop the hula hoop and pick it up into a storage bucket. You have 2 on your team that you can control by saying the charging can't. And then once you say the charging can't, you can then redirect them. The goal of the game is to have them wander around like a Roomba and then eventually send them toward your deposit space where then they will deposit them. Well, that's had things like that. Yeah, I had a lot of different things. So basically Amtgard battle games really come down to kind of 4 things. Right, area control, object capture the flag, ring the bell. That's sort of the same back and forth. Murder ball's sort of the same thing, and things like life pool. And it was kind of just a mix and match of those, and putting them together in different ways so that they were slightly different from each other. Rules really only took 5 minutes or less, probably mostly like a minute or 2, and then we would start. So that's kind of how I ran it. I ran it as basically as fast as I could and still give people, 5 minutes to rest. I didn't change teams every game. I basically every 2 or 3 games I would change teams up because, I
Okay.
like it so people can can play with different people. I did watch for team balance, which is my all-time least favorite thing about being champion. It's way better at a large game event level though, because team balance is much less of an issue generally.
It averages
But
out a little bit.
yeah, it averages out a lot more. And then it's just like between games, if it was really bad, I'd change things. But other than that, let people play 2 or 3 games together, and then okay, now let's change. So that's kind of how I ran it.
Yeah.
But I basically just had a list. Each game was kind of just a brief synopsis of what I did. I had a bunch of equipment that was like, hey, if I know I need this stuff, here's a bunch of other stuff I might use, which it's because then I could just make it up as I went along. So I had everything marked out for like, here's a central place in the field. Here's all the goals were in the corner. One was a minute the entire weekend, so you didn't have to wonder what the respawn was. There was
Mhm.
various points that I had already pre-marked. This year I was a lot better than last year. Basically, the whole field was marked in a play area. You can't go out of the play area, so that avoids people like going really wide flanks. And then basically, as I went to the next game, people go over there, explain the game, have some Reeves run it, and then I would go to the other side, set up, and vice versa. And it was really fun. So
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool event. Now, Kite told me about the challenge, but what do you think about the challenge?
the challenge was Kite's challenge. To be, I was like, sure, you're welcome to try it. My brother-in-law who plays Bremen, he said that was actually the most fun he's had in a long time playing Amtgard because he got to try classes he doesn't normally do. And that's part of like
Yeah,
in the course of playing a battle game. And it was so his challenge, just I guess for people don't know, is that play every single class at least once in throughout the event. So, and he made up some, I don't know if he made belt flags or something to just kind of reward people for playing every single class. And it was really kind of a fun challenge to get people. So the thing that worked though is that we had so many games that you could do that and still play the class you wanted to play for half the time
yeah.
anyway, right? So,
And that's kind of the appeal that when I heard about this event, I'm like, I really want to go to this event because the not only battle
well,
games per dollar, but also how often do you get to play everything? Like,
coming up in May, Polaris is having Mega MAME, and I believe we're starting on Thursday, and battle gaming all the way through Monday. So I'm hoping they continue with the pace of games, but I don't know if that's sustainable for that many days, but we'll see. So I'm pretty sure they're planning on something like that, so that it's just nonstop battle games for like 4 days straight. So
well, I hope that we can run it again in 2027 because I have to go to this stinking wedding. But I I just love that it like in the Rising Winds, like you said earlier, we get 3 battle games,
yep,
maybe 4. If we're obscenely
yep,
lucky, we get 4. And I love being a wizard. Like I need at least 2 games as a wizard, and that leaves me with like a game where I can play something
right,
else.
yep.
It's like okay, but if you're gonna run 20 battle games in a day, like I
Yeah,
could
it's
run
probably more
10.
like 15 in a day, and then like
Still,
10 the
like
next
that's
day.
still
But
that's
still,
so
it's like a
many.
lot of games,
I
right?
could I could do wizard other class, and play every
Yeah,
class and
yep,
have a delightful time. Like, and that just seems super exciting in a way that you couldn't do it at park. Like even a normal park day only
yeah,
gets 3 or 4 games at the
yep,
most.
yeah. And that
And
if you're lucky because a lot of parks don't do even that. So
oh, yeah, my local park
yeah.
usually does 2 games, and we're lucky to get a
Yep.
third game. And it's like okay,
I
and
have issues about that too. Like I said, I've been park champion for many years now, and I've actually been to visiting other parks and run their games when I was
mm,
there. And I'm like, we're not having enough games. Let me go run some games. So
mhm,
people in Amtgard like to talk. So that's one of the things I tell new champions is like, you can't let them talk. Otherwise, they're just going to talk all day long. If you want
mhm,
to run battle games, you have to kick them and get them in gear, and then like we're gonna be running battle games. The advantage of MAME, of course, is people are there for the battle games, so
right.
you don't really have to fight with them to get them to play battle games, which is nice. So
So you're going to be the Warcrat again in 2026. Is that right?
I'm not. Nope.
You're not. No, someone else
Nope.
is. So you
Yep.
did 2024, 2025. Someone else is doing
Correct.
2026. Who's running
Yep.
2026?
That is a question I should have been prepared for.
It's
See if
okay
I can
if you don't
find it.
know.
I'll look it up if you have any other questions.
I mean, the event itself seems really straightforward, as many battle games as you can possibly do. Like, I like that. I like that it's really simple battle games. You already answered my main question, was how did you get the setup done in time with running two different fields? Earlier you mentioned that there are only really four kinds of battle games. Do you want to elaborate any on that? What are the four types?
Before we do that, the Warcrats are Dr. Marstone Squid and Nameless. If you know who they are, then they are the battle games. Autocrat is Gallios. A bunch of those are from World's End.
Okay.
Four types of battle games. I mean, obviously, take this with a grain of salt because you can always find examples that don't fit the four. Object capture is here's some things you have to capture and bring back to a place. Area control, classic example is just either you're controlling flags, you're controlling a building, you're controlling a space. Even escort is kind of area control. So really, lots of games boil down to, in their essence, of the four types. My least favorite being life pool, probably, because it's the easiest broken and the easiest for people not to play once they run out of lives, which I don't like. I play a bunch of board games. I basically don't own any where it's last person standing, right? Because it's just no fun for the people who get out,
Yeah.
right? So I feel the same way in Amtgard. So I don't really do life pool games for the
Makes
most part,
sense.
but it is a type.
So you have
Um,
life pool, gather, give, and area control.
life pool,
Your
area control, object capture, and then I put ring the bell and capture the flag kind of in the same. It's called basically it's a back and forth, right?
okay. That
Where there's the scoring objective. Either ring the bell, you're ringing a bell, capture the flag, you're capturing the flag. Murder ball's the same thing. We do Amtgard basketball when we're
hmm,
in a gym. It's hilarious to watch how bad we are all trying to shoot a basketball. Of course, someone's running at you with a sword too, so it does make it a little
right.
more difficult. But essentially, it's the back and forth two goals. I mean, the almost Quidditch I would put into that category where your scoring objective is on the ends and you're trying to get to the scoring objective. So it's
That
similar.
makes a
It's
lot of
kind
sense.
of stuff all boils down to that, and you can almost reverse that to get to new games. Like one of the ones I had for the castle side, you mix games together. So you have essentially an area control to open the gate of the castle, and then you have a capture the flag once you get the gate open, right? That
Hmm.
sort of thing. So making up stuff on the fly is easy once you kind of, well, once you've done it a while, I guess. And also once you understand everything boils down to kind of similar base of games. So
Yeah. I have a similar philosophy for like board game playing. Like
sure.
I tell people I can pick up board games really quickly because there's not that many board games. There's just
Sure.
more
I mean,
steps.
you go on Board Game Geek and you see it. Well, there's worker placement, there's hand management, there's
Yeah, you've
there's
got
there's all
worker,
sorts of the
you know,
terms.
there's categories
So
that you can break things
right,
into. And then, if I tell you, hey,
and
we're
then
going to
it's
play a deck building drafting game that ends with trick taking, that tells you everything you need
right,
to know. Like,
right. Yep.
there might be more steps or sub themes in there,
Sure.
but really, you're just reskinning the same concept.
And Amtgard battle games are kind of the same way. So, which is I think fine because it lets you get into them faster if you have them relatively simple. So,
And I really like the idea of. Now, are you a master smith, or is that something you're
no,
aspiring towards? Okay.
sure. Now we can get into the what so I don't really aspire to much as far as because I'm not ambitious. I'm
Okay.
perfectly happy to do stuff. If I get a Master Smith, great. But I'm not necessarily going to go out and really, really pound work for it. That's probably why I I don't have it. Well, that's not necessarily true, but like it's one of those things where I feel like I'm. So I guess I don't know. For people who don't know me, I am a Flame Knight. One of my friends basically said that if you weren't a flame knight, you would still be doing what you're doing if there was no such thing as knighthood. I'm like, yes, but that's who I am, and it's the same sort of way with being a smith or being. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna do it anyway, whether people award me or not. It doesn't matter to me. Oh, am I? No. if I ever am, sure. I mean, I'm happy to accept it, but it's not something I'm doing it
Okay.
for the reward. I'm doing it because I just like people running battle games, so or like running battle games.
So the thing I kind of leading into there that I was thinking about is like I know a bunch of people that are on the smithing path and they're trying
Sure,
to become master smiths
sure,
and they have battle game design philosophy. And a lot of the times, like, and I'm guilty of this myself, if you are building a kingdom battle game, you know that it's going to be one of 3 battle games at the event. You try to make it the best thing ever. You overcomplicate it. And I was curious to see if your quantity over quality, quote unquote quality,
sure.
like was a purposeful design decision because I feel like
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
executing.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I could have gotten through as many as I did if I had really complicated battle games. Partly because it just takes too long to explain and answer questions. Like if your
Yeah.
objective is get this ball into the goal, like and your respawn's always the same and your
Mm-hmm.
respawn places are always the same, it's like there's really no questions. Like here's the teams, go. Right? Like
Yeah.
so it lets you get into actually battle gaming a lot quicker. Like I said, we have Polaris has an Autumn Battlegrounds where we intentionally do complicated games that allows potential battle masters to essentially show their stuff. And because we have that forum, it definitely frees up people who are running MAME, which once again is probably, hey, it's a lot of people's first event. Let's not make it complicated. I know new players tend to love simple objectives because then they can do the objective. I love that aspect of Amtgard, where the fact that you got the new people who have, I don't know how all this spellcasting and peasant and fighting works, but I will run objectives because that I can do, and it lets people do both if they're simple enough objectives. So
Yeah.
as far as like battle or Smith as a path, I actually think questing events and that sort of design is a maybe maybe more of a uh, test of good smithing than battle game design, at least from my perspective, because I design very simple battle games. I'm like, sure, you can give me a smith for it, but it's not like I'm doing much, right? It's not like I'm
I feel like the
designing a
difference
lot.
you're not designing like overly complicated mechanics. You're not making a clock, but you're executing something simple really well.
Sure,
Like
sure.
there's a difference between a poorly done, overly complicated game and a really well done, like by the book game that has an appeal to it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the same can be said about food. You can have really fancy
yeah,
food that is overly complicated versus it's just meat and potatoes and everybody's happy. I'm also been feastocrat, so I kind of applied the same when I did feastocrat. It's just like,
give me a
you know
slab of
what, I'm
meat and a
just gonna have,
potato. I'm a happy camper.
yeah,
Doesn't
exactly.
have
Like
to
you
be fancy stuff.
give people enough food that it's simple and tasty, and that's all you need, right? But yeah, so like I mean I've designed complicated games. I have one of the games I ran when my early days of champion is Amtgard. Oh come on, what's it called? It's basic. Oh, tower defense.
Mm,
You would have people standing in a maze. That here's an archer. You could buy turrets, which is here's another archer, that sort of thing. And I had a whole list of here's what you can spend, first wave single short, second wave first wave single short fragile, second wave single short, third wave Florentine, that sort of thing. And I'd have people who weren't the team that was preparing the tower defense run through every time. So I've designed complicated games, but it's really hard I found to run that at a large scale event
mm,
because it's people aren't paying attention. Right. And one of the things we actually designed Sylvia design from Land's End or World's End designed a banner that we could change the respawn, even though we never did, with felt numbers. So like we had a banner in all 4 of the corners, which had your respawn. So we intentionally designed it so that you could come in at any point.
mm.
We actually had a pouch with the rules. We weren't very good at putting them in there because I kind of made stuff up. So, but the intent was that You didn't have to play every game. You could just jump right in whenever you wanted. The headbands for color was at each of the spawns. Spawn was the same. It was really simple to just come and go as you needed. That sort of thing was more like we put a lot of thought into the execution of the thing. The actual games were probably the least thing we thought about, right?
At that
That
point,
was just here's
you're
this
more
list I'm gonna
designing
run. Yeah.
to make
It
the
was
games work than you're actually designing the
Yep.
games. Because if you've got your
Right.
list and you've got your 4 basic battle games, I mean, you can just kind of iterate on them infinitely
Yep.
and
Which is what
just
I
keep going.
did.
Yeah,
So
which
make sure you change it up, right? You're not doing here's a bunch of balls in the field, next game here's a bunch of balls in the field, right? You're make
mhm.
sure it's completely different every single game, unless it takes a lot of setup where you're reusing, which is fine. But that's why I had the castle side, so like okay, this one's set up for the castle, and that's why I alternated as well, so that it's like you're not doing multiple castle games in a row, you're doing a castle game then a something else, so that
Yeah,
it was always something different. And sometimes I ran 2 on the empty side because I was just like, I can't really think of another castle game at the moment. Run something else, and then I'll start brainstorming what to do. So,
I like it. It makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, how big were those fields? Like,
I have the measurements. The entire thing
mhm.
was, let's see, 2, 3, 4. I think it was a 150. I
Okay,
don't know. But it was I think it was a 300 by 150 foot field. Trying to think if that's about right. I also marked 20 feet increments with surveyor flags
okay,
all the way down the field, both sides, for spell casting purposes, which I thought was kind of cool. No,
I think
I'm the
that's
one that did
really
it, but um, so that you kind of get an idea, because that's one of the hardest things to do as a spellcaster is like, what's 20 feet? Well, it turns out there's a flag there and a flag there, so maybe you're close
mhm.
enough you can start to recognize what 20 feet is. So I did that down both fields, but then there was a 40-foot spot in the middle that was basically where we stored all the gear and where everybody hung out, where you could watch both sides, all the water, and lunch was brought to the field there. So,
How'd you pull
I
that
don't know, it
off?
was lunch brought to the field. Well,
You
that
had to
was the
bribe
plan
that
from the
feasted
beginning.
crowd.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the plan from the beginning. We've done it before at different events, and that was kind of one of those things that my sister and I are autocrated both, and that was one of those things we were like, lunch is going to be brought to the field. That way, it's much quicker. So
Mhm.
you cart lunch down. It's something that can be served on the field. Everybody sits around eating lunch, and then we get right back into it. After about 35 minutes, or sorry, about 45 minutes to an hour. So
Okay.
at max an hour. So because I didn't want like, okay, it's lunch, everybody goes away,
Right.
and
Then you
then you
lose
have
them.
to re-wrangle them. No, I didn't want any of that. I wanted everybody to just stay there so that for the afternoon we could just jump right back in. So,
I'm trying to think if there's anything. We really blew through the like a couple little things I had planned out. Do you have anything else you want to talk about the event?
um, not about the event other than everyone should come to Mega MAME 2026. So if they want to do more battle game than you can shake a stick at, but
Oof.
so
I mean,
It
I
it'll
really
be
wish I could
interesting.
be there.
I'll be playing this time, so I'll see
Oh,
how bad the try every class is. I'm
I
sure.
think you're gonna have a blast. I so wish I could be there. Everyone else, go to Mega Mame and tell me about how amazing it was, so I can come next year. And that just sounds so cool. But yeah, so I do have a like side question about
Sure.
your local park because you say you champion for your local park. First, how many games are you running at your local park day?
Well, when we have a decent enough people to play, which
Mm-hmm.
is cyclical, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I generally like to run one entry game or one warm-up game. Imperial Tides, my local park, does Murder Ball. We love Murder Ball, so we play Murder Ball as our warm-up game. Unless we're
Mm-hmm.
inside, then we do Amtgard basketball. And then I generally run 3 or 4.
Okay.
If I can. It really depends on, obviously, if we're outside, we tend to go longer if the weather's nice, but it really depends on. I mean, I'm still receptive to how well people are playing, whether, if people get tired a lot, then maybe take a little longer, but basically that. So, not nearly as many as May, but I tried to get at least 3 or 4 in. I think probably 4 is the minimum I want to do. When I first started Champion, I would actually come with a list. Here's my games I'm planning to play. Here's the equipment I need. Here's everything I need to know about it. I would actually I did that for the first year I was champion, and it really helped out. So that it kept me on track,
Yeah.
rather than going like, what shall we do today? Right? Like I had a list, and I was like, I'm running these, and once I ran them, maybe then I'd ad hoc. Now, since I've been champion for, I don't know, probably been 5 years of being champion at least. Not consecutively, but like I've been champion for a
Yeah.
lot. It's by far my favorite job in Amtgard, and probably the most important. But I have a whole nother talk about that. I probably can just make stuff up all the time now. I mean, I don't come with a list anymore. So, but that's because I've done it so now a month.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, I know we're going to get off topic, but that's okay because I think we've settled MAME. You said that champion's the most important job in Amtgard. Do you want to elaborate on that? Like, what's the philosophy?
Sure. So the reason I say the champion and I say local park champion is the most important job in Amtgard is because I would say 60% of the people who play Amtgard don't go to big events. And your Amtgard is the makeup of local parks. If a local park is healthy, then they come together to make a healthy kingdom. And without local parks, you're not going to get a big event, right? So everything starts with the local park. And there's basically four main jobs of the local park. There's the monarch, who's kind of in charge of finding sites and PR and all that. There's the regent, which is in charge of A&S, which I think is maybe the second most important, only because they involve people who don't necessarily want a battle game, which is one of the things I think is great about Amtgard, is the fact that you get people who don't battle game, and that's fine because they have other things they can do to be involved. Champion is basically I'm the kindergarten teacher or the physical education gym teacher, and I'm basically the ones that are keeping people entertained while they come to the park. And without a good local battle games, without good champion at a park level, like you're not going to let people aren't going to stay because they're not going to have fun. So who
Right.
basically the champion is the one that's in charge of seeing that people have fun. Ultimately, I suppose the monarch is in charge because if the champion's not there, the monarch does it. But in my opinion, the champion's the best. The because they keep people engaged and having fun. So
It's the champion's responsibility to be running those games.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I gave a whole talk at our last event, PlayerCon. Not that it was well attended, but that's fine. And of like, you want lots of battle games, good pace of play. You want to be flexible, have variety. Talked about team balance, which is the worst thing about being a champion. How to work with little numbers, how to work with more numbers, that sort of thing. So
Talk to me
always
about
have
team
a bunch of
balance. This is something this is a
team
tricky
balance
one.
is the word, and you should never leave it to new people. I mean, I've been guilty of myself. Hey, you're captain, pick teams, right? Choose two, the other person picks one. That never seems to balance well enough, other than me just
Mm-mm.
going, you're on this team, you're on this team.
Mm-hmm.
You want someone to balance the teams who knows the player. This is so my goal as a local champion is to balance it so that everybody's having fun, with the realization that there will be a winner and there will be a loser, and that's okay, right? If one team is getting stomped and it's not the fault of the game, just let it run. It'll be okay. It'll be over. Rebalance teams after. And I have very rarely stopped a game because it's one team's getting stomped. I mean, I've been on the teams getting stomped before. It's very sad and it's very not fun. But that's why you have to change it up the teams every single time you possibly can to try to keep that team balanced. Teams are balanced and games go back and forth, and that's what you all strive for. But to do that, you have to know the people, and you have to balance classes against each other, that sort of thing. So like I'm at a park level where it's like any park, there's players who I have to balance against each other to keep things
Mm.
balanced. But occasionally, like, people want to play together, right? So
Right.
there are times where I'm like, okay, you two, you get to play together, and I just stack the deck as much as I can the other way, so that
Mm.
at least it tries to be team balance, right? That's the sort of
Yeah.
things that you have to think about when you're champion and balancing teams.
Okay. So something that isn't really out there yet, but probably will be by the time this video comes out. I'm actually starting a park in my hometown here, and I'm resurrecting a dead park, but a new name and everything. But like, I'm thinking that for the beginning, it's probably gonna have pretty small numbers. Can you give me
Sure.
some advice on battle games for small numbers of groups?
I find it for small numbers, it's easier to do free for alls.
Okay.
It's not quite as exciting. Like, but if you have 4 people, you're not doing a battle game, right? Because if you have 4 people, 2 people die, whatever the objective is, it's easy to accomplish when there's nobody on the field, right? It doesn't
Right.
really matter, right? So either that or you have to keep respawn time so low, it's basically there is no respawn, and at that point, what are you really doing?
Mm.
So things like kill your killer and like my favorite thing to do with 4 is one person with sword and board and the other 3 with offhand single short go, right?
Mm.
Things like that. But the other thing that I've done is sort of free for all but class. Things like kill the class game, kill your killer class, which ends up being a little silly. You play the normal games that you can play with not very many people, but add class into it to get people some experience playing class games, even though it's not going to work well. You do a lot of not class stuff, of course, with
Mm.
smaller numbers because it's one person with CC will basically make everybody else sad. If it's you can't really play small numbers battle games, but you full class battle games, right? So you kind of have to work with what you have, and the more people you have, the more you can get into the traditional games. But things like capture the flag, you can do. I've really recently, I've discovered that the best way to do things like capture the flag or ring the bell or something where it's traditionally go down, do an objective, and the game stops, is you don't stop the game. Like
Mm.
it's much better to learn the game of Amtgard and to play Amtgard if you just play for 10 to 15 minutes. And
Okay.
then if it's ring the bell or murder ball or whatever, it's a continuous game. A Reeve resets things, you go, right? You don't stop the game because then it's just like, well, we 30 seconds in, something happens, now we have to go reset. It's much better to get a whole experience of just let's just play and then have a continuous game. So if you're designing a game, make sure it's something that doesn't stop the game. Some game modes
Mm-hmm.
are harder to do that with. I just discovered, hey, capture the flag actually works. You just have once the flag gets captured, it re-walks it back, and you just keep going until you certain amount of points or certain amount of
Yeah.
time, right? So you can do that sort of thing to help out the fewer numbers, because sure, one team's going to get wiped and it's going to be captured, but it doesn't stop the game. You just keep going, and
Right.
and things like that. So I have some iterations to try of like, okay, this team can't score until that team does to try to help balance it out. But anyway,
Okay.
there's lots of things you can try.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your advice, and thanks for coming on and talking to me tonight about MAME and the more battle games than you can reasonably play in a day. I still think this event sounds super cool. I'm really bummed to be missing it,
Yeah,
but everyone else, go to MAME. Kismet, thank you for your time tonight. I really
welcome.
appreciate you coming on. And for anybody out there who's wondering why we're not doing Paragon interviews right now, come back in March and we're going to have more Paragon interviews. We're going to have tons of high level content. But keep tuning into these tangential topics. Let me know down in the comments if you're enjoying them. Maybe we could do more videos like this in the future. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.